Thank you so much for joining today. We're going to be talking about gamification. So, Melody, I see your comment in the chat. It cracked me up about the Quiznos commercials. Yes, those were my favorites back in the day. But absolutely. So we are going to be talking today about level up 5 steps to gamify your classroom. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. So hopefully you can see this, and let me get it in present mode. That would be nice. Here we go. All right, so level up 5 steps to gamify your classroom. My name is Sarah Thomas, and I am a regional tech coordinator by day. I'm also affiliate faculty at a local university in the Masters of Ed Tech program, and I'm also the founder of EduMatch. So for any of you tweeters in the house, then you can find me at Sarah the Teacher. I'm there on Twitter, Voxer, Instagram, Snapchat, just about everything at Sarah the Teacher. So I would love to connect with you. I always love to talk shop, make new friends in education. So yeah, 100%. So for the next hour, we're going to be talking about gamification. Part of it will be kind of the theory behind it, and I'll also show you some examples. And at the end, I'll wrap up with the 5 steps. So if at any point you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. You probably see me looking over to the side every now and then. Oh, I see Cindy's in the house. Hello, hello. Deborah, Mary, Crystal, hello. Great to see y'all here. So if at any point you have any question, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Or if you have any comments, because I know that we have a wealth of knowledge in the room. So if you have any familiarity with gamification and you want to share what you do, then that would be totally cool to just go ahead and drop your experiences or any resources you may have in the chat. So without any further ado, we'll get started. Tell you a little bit more about me. I kind of sort of introduced myself, but I'm about to start my 16th year in education. Oh my goodness. And I still remember day one. This is crazy. So if a kid was born the very first day that I started teaching, then they would pretty much be almost having their driver's license. So that's kind of crazy to think about. I was a classroom teacher for a little over 10 years. I did grades 1 through 12, not all at the same time, thank goodness, because that would have been a lot to handle. But over the course of those 10 years, and I kind of started with elementary, I moved to middle, and then I ended up in high school, and now I work central office. I'm still a teacher, just not in the classroom. Currently, like I said, I'm a regional technology coordinator, which pretty much means I work with about 20 schools directly, and I support them in their educational technology integration. So that's kind of what I do right now. I love social media, love it. And I love to connect with folks. And in addition, I'm the founder of EduMatch, and I have to give a huge shout out to all the EduMatchers in the house. Oh, hey, I see that Becca is here today too. Hey, Becca. So huge shout out to the EduMatchers in the house. I see Melody, who is our logistics manager for EduMatch Publishing, is here with us. And also Cindy, a longtime EduMatcher, is also in the house. So awesomeness. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I have a question for you all, and you can feel free to answer this in the chat if you'd like. What do you think would happen if learning were like a game? Okay, so think about it, right? Think about if learning was like a game, what do you think would happen? What would happen? So I'll give you all a little bit of wait time on that. It would be so fun. I would never want to stop. Absolutely. Students would be much more engaged. We'd have some students who think game on. Yes, indeed. Would want to win. Yes. I would choose a skinny avatar. So would I. More engagement. Students would retain more content. Absolutely. Students would learn to try again when they fail. Willingness to keep trying the skill until they win or master it. Great. Building student agency. Ooh, yes. Yes, these are all fantastic answers. So feel free to keep them coming. And I want to say yes to all of this that you said. Like, just gamification. I won't spoil. I'll jump ahead to that a little later on. So we'll get on the same page with a definition in just a second. But I love your responses. If learning were like a game, all of those things would happen. Great. And it gives us an opportunity to get outside of ourselves, unlimited lives and attempts. And hello to Milton and to Lori. Great to see you all here. So on the next slide, I'm going to play a video for you, and hopefully it comes through. But the person who is speaking is Jane McGonigal. She is a famous video game designer, and she's really big into gamification, and she gives lots of TED Talks, and she's a personal hero of mine. So I'll go ahead and play for you what Jane has to say. Yeah, I love her too.
There's been some fascinating research to suggest that when we play games and we tap into positive emotions like curiosity and optimism and creativity and even love, that these emotions actually stay with us for up to 24 hours after we finish playing the game. So studies have shown that we're more likely to cooperate with someone in our real lives after we've played a social game with them, or we're doing some kind of cooperative mission. Or we're more likely to set an ambitious goal for ourselves after we've succeeded in a game. We'll speak up more for ourselves. We'll even flirt with more attractive strangers. So there's this kind of transfer of our confidence, of our creativity, of our ambition to our real lives. We have this idea that playing games is kind of a waste of time, that it's not a very productive way to spend our time. And I kept hearing that even as I was evangelizing all of the benefits of gaming, the emotional benefits, the social, the psychological benefits. People kept saying, yeah, but it's just a waste of time. Shouldn't we be doing something more productive than, avenging some angry birds? And it really made me wonder, well, what do we mean by productive? I mean, productivity is about producing something. What do we really want to produce more of in our lives and in the lives of the people around us? Are we trying to produce more emails, or, are we trying to produce more positive emotion? Are we trying to produce stronger relationships? Are we trying to produce a sense of meaning and purpose? And it turns out that games are actually quite good at producing those things. That's what they produce more of, and better than almost anything else. So when people say games are a waste of time and not productive, I would challenge them to ask themselves, what do you want to produce more of? And if it's things like better relationships and more positive emotion in my daily life, then games might be the most productive thing to do.
Yes. All right. So that was Jane McGonigal with some really, really wise words about gamifying, right? Seeing what we want to produce more of, and all of the things that you all mentioned earlier about what learning would look like if it was like a game. Then she kind of touched on some of that stuff. Now, one thing that she didn't touch on that I wanted to share with you all, kind of why she's an inspiration to me, is that she has taken the concept of gamification and applied it to life, essentially. She had a concussion a few years back, and I don't know if any of you have had a concussion. I've had a couple myself, so this is why it resonates with me. But with the concussion, there's a certain window. If you don't get past that window and recover, then there's a good chance that you won't. So what she did was use gamification to motivate herself to, just work towards that recovery. So she created a game called Super Better. And I think Super Better, you can set whatever you want your outcome to be. But the very first version of Super Better was to help her get over her concussion. So to me, that just really inspired me. I loved it. So hello to Church, who joined us. And Marilyn, yeah, I agree. It messes you up big time. Big time. All right. So question for you all, and please feel free to answer this in the chat. Think about either when you were growing up or even now, what were or what are your favorite games, and what keeps you coming back. So think about the feature that you really like about your favorite games. So I see some people putting Scrabble, Pac-Man, Duck Hunt. Yes, the Power Pad. Oh, I remember those. I do. Marco Polo. Yep. Hello, Carrie. Hello, Ruth. Monopoly. I still love Monopoly. Yes. Tetris. WoW. I haven't played WoW, but I would love to play that. Uno. Oh, I just played some Uno today. And Life. Yes. Gordon Ramsay Diner Dash. Oh, I need to check that one out. Phase 10. Scrabble. Scrabble. Uno is Life. Yes, it is. War. Boggle. Slapjack. Cribbage. Yahtzee. Cool. So tell me, why do y'all like these things? What features of the game make you come back to them? So I see Yahtzee. Hi, Sonia. Uh, the levels, okay, great. They're quick. They make you think. Very competitive. You show off your vocabulary. New shiny features you can buy with gold when you win. Absolutely. Gotta love those in-app purchases. Competition and laughter. Quick, fun, strategic, but not headache-inducing. Gloating. I love that. I love that. Collaboration, moving forward. Yeah, so all of these things, trying to beat your previous score. Yes, these are all yeah, competition and laughter. So all of these features and more are things that you can infuse into your classroom design. So it's pretty cool. So I will give you let me give you an example, right? So there's a young lady I know. She comes to class, sits in the back of class, she's kind of drawing stuff on drawing notes and sharing those notes, passing them back and forth with her friends in the class. They look at the notes, they laugh, they're kind of disruptive. She could do so much better. She can. When she goes home, what do you think she's doing? Chances are she is probably hanging with friends, collaborating, communicating, I should say, and playing video games. Now, do any of you know the student? I will tell you, I know the student very, very well. Why? Because this was me. This was me. And it's funny. Yeah, and I see, Cindy, you said it was you too. Yep, yep. And what's funny, when I started doing this presentation on gamification, I was like, this was me 20 years ago. And now I'm like, this was me 25 years ago. But yeah, that was me. And now students today are Melody says it's me in a staff meeting. Right? I plead the fifth now. But yeah, Pong and Atari, Centipede, and Guess Melody, absolutely. So as you know, students today are different, to a degree. Like the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? Our students, a lot of times people have referred to them as digital natives. Like they grew up with technology. They have all this stuff around them. They grew up playing games, with the device in their hand and things like that. So what a better way than to meet them where they are? And that really taps into all of the things that y'all mentioned before, the collaboration, the beating your own personal best, the multiple lives, all of these things, we can embed them. Secret levels even. So many cool things we can embed into our class design. So Jane McGonigal says that as a planet, we spend 3 billion hours a week playing video games. Now, I will invite you to guess in the chat, who do you think is the highest demographic of game players? Think about it. Teens. Okay, good guess. Good guess. White males. Okay. Good guess. Good guess. Males 20 to 35. All right, 30s. Yes. 30s. The adults. Adults are the biggest gamers on the planet. So yeah, and so think about it, a lot of us still live for these games. Like I said, I just came off playing Uno about maybe 2 hours ago. So absolutely. All right. So gamification. We have talked about how great it is, but we haven't really talked about what exactly it is. So gamification, just to calibrate, gamification means using game design elements to engage and empower learners. So pretty much you're using different elements of games, like game elements like levels, points, badges, things like that to engage your learners. Why would you want to gamify? Well, for one thing, it helps to give them choice. And, thinking about when I do things, I like to have a choice in what I do, right? So gamification, if you think about I really like the game Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Country, like the one that came out on Super Nintendo back in like the 90s, and how you can just kind of choose whatever level you want to get to. Once you unlock it, you can go to any level, just kind of go back to any previous level. Then that is one really cool thing, right? So it gives them choice. It also increases their engagement, and it accelerates their learning. So gamification is just all that in a bag of chips. I like what you said, Cassie. Minecart Carnage. Yes, that, oh my gosh, that level drives me insane. Still to this day, I got a Super Nintendo simulator, and I still play that level, and it's really hard to beat. So absolutely. So thinking about gamification, so you might be thinking, okay, what do I need to get started if I want to gamify my class? It sounds really complicated. I probably need a lot of time, a lot of money. Nah, not really. You do not need lots of time. You can get it started. Um, like my very first gamification experience, I actually got it set up in about 2 hours, and I just built from there. So I'll share more about that with you in just a moment. Um, you can do it for free. Like, you don't have to put any money into it if you don't want to. So you don't need a lot of time. You don't need a lot of money. All you need is a little creativity and an open mind, and that's it. So a lot of times people get confused between these two terms that are very similar. They're both really good educational practices, but they're two different things: gamification and game-based learning. So what gamification does is that it takes the elements of games and you kind of build those in structurally into your classes. Game-based learning pretty much in essence means learning using games. So let me give you an example. Gamification would be like, you see the star chart, like our teachers from way back in the day, they were way before their time with these. Like, I remember these star charts. I used to live for these star charts. I don't know about you all, but that would be an example of gamification from the 80s and 90s, right? The star charts, you would try to get as many stars as you could so you could get a reward. That was gamification right there. Now, as opposed to when we would play my favorite game in class, Carmen Sandiego or Oregon Trail, then that was learning through playing a game. Okay, so whereas the star chart was actually part of the class, right? It was ingrained into the class culture. This was not like a game by itself, but it was something that we did that was game-like in the classroom, as opposed to playing a game like Carmen Sandiego, Number Munchers, Oregon Trail. Okay, so yes. Oh, thank you so much for dropping the title, Marilyn, about Jane McGonigal's book and her TED Talk link. Fantastic, and I agree 100%. Cheryl and Mary, yes, those stars were everything. Like my first couple years in the classroom, I think I did a star chart as well. So, absolutely. All right, so gamification, it is not just for the classroom. Gamification is around us, and it has been for a very, very, very long time. So much so, it's so embedded into our culture around us that you probably don't even notice it. But all right, my newest obsession is like, I got the Peloton app on my phone, right? And there's the different workouts, like the running outside, there's the spin bike, there's a treadmill, all that stuff, right? And what they do is that you earn badges. Like, they have secret classes. You go in and you take, like, there was like this one dance class that I took or whatever, and it was like a secret badge. So all of a sudden I had that badge that I unlocked, right? So there's that. You may have seen, I don't know if any of you are runners, but Nike Plus, it has different levels you try to aim for. So once you get a certain number of miles, then you kind of level up your color band. Your frequent flyer miles, once you fly a certain number of trips, then you get like a bonus unlocked, free trips. That's gamification. Coffee shops with their punch cards or their gold stars, so it's all around us. Yes, I'm seeing all of these examples that y'all are dropping. So McDonald's Monopoly, Tim Hortons Rewards, Duolingo, yes indeed, Starbucks Rewards, MIE program, winning swag. Yeah, all of those things are gamification. Even my credit card, when I get like cash back, that is gamification. So those are things to really keep you engaged and sucked in. So yes, absolutely, the certifications, all of those things are gamification. Okay, so I want to give a few shout outs before I show you all some examples. So the way that I learned about gamification is that in the summer of 2014, I want to say, no, 2013, summer of 2013, right after the school year ended, then my district put on a gamification workshop. And in that workshop, we learned kind of the model I'm going to share with you, the example one model. So we had an intensive session where, there were about maybe 20 or so educators who were interested and signed up, and we were immersed in it. They gamified the gamification workshop. So that was really cool. So that was Erin, Selena, and Barbara. So I did that process, and I'll tell you, what got me started really was that I'll save that story for the next slide. But yeah, I kind of started, I panic started, but it worked out so well for me. And then the following summer, I met Chris Aviles at Google Teacher Academy, now known as Google Innovator Academy. And he showed me his model of gamification, and I was just like, wow, that is dope. So that was cool. Michael Matera does a lot of great work. And also my teammates over at the technology training team, we've learned about gamification, together. So just wanted to give some quick shout outs where they are due. So I'm going to show you an example. So this is what my very first gamification looked like. So this was for my middle school technology class. So let me give you the backstory. I promised you the backstory. So I told you before, I was teaching, I've taught pretty much everything from 1st to 12th grade. A large chunk of that was at a French immersion school. And there I taught English and technology. But I started teaching technology 3rd grade all the way up to 8th grade. So usually what it would look like was, okay, quarter 1, we would learn about this tool, right? Quarter 2, we would learn about this tool. Quarter 3, we would learn about this tool. And quarter 4, we'd make a research project stringing them all together. And it was the same thing, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. They would just come up with a different country each time because we were a French immersion school. So I would have them rinse and repeat the process with a different country. So I had this group of 8th graders. They were not having it for the 5th straight year. They were just like, oh no, we're not doing this again. And they didn't say it with their words, but they said it with their behavior. And I was just like, okay, it's time to think of something else. So I remembered that gamification workshop I had gone to. So I woke up pretty much in a cold sweat at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, all right, let me set this up. So I just created a website. It was very, very simple. I just had a couple of different elements in it, which we'll break down in a second. But the thing is that it took me about 2 hours to lay the foundation. I just set up the missions by stage as well as stage 1, right? So, and I'll show you what each of these look like in just a moment. So I built the game out as I went. So it didn't take me a long time to do stage 1. And I didn't start building stage 2 until one of my students got to stage 1, right? So as you can see, stage 3 is the last one that's built out. I think that this was the furthest that any of my students got. But let's break down some of the component parts. Okay, so the very first thing is rules, okay? So for the rules, I had some simple rules that the students would follow, because just like in any game, you need to know the rules in order to win. Every game has rules, no matter what game it is. If I can think of my earliest game that I remember playing, it was probably Peekaboo. With Peekaboo, you cover your face, you hide, and then you go, boo, Peekaboo, right? And I don't even think that there's any winning when it comes to Peekaboo. But with every game, there are some rules that you have to follow. Going back to the Super Mario example or the Donkey Kong example, then that they can the little one has to jump on the creatures more times to kill them, right? So that is one rule of the game. So I had different rules that I came up with my students. But some of them, some of them I came up with before we reconvened and I explained it to them. So I had, because the missions were scaffolded, and we're going to look at missions in just a second, because the missions were scaffolded, then they could only do missions based on their current stage. I put the stuff that I really wanted them to know at the beginning, and then afterwards, they got to kind of choose what they were going to do. Okay, so missions based on the current stage, they needed to have a certain number of points in order to get to the next stage. So the second thing was that all missions at the tutorial level must be successfully completed before moving on. Okay. Then starting at stage 1, they had that choice. They could select their missions. They could use any point combination to reach the required points. So each assignment was worth, I believe, 700 points or something to that effect. So as long as they had 2,100 points, then they could move on to the next stage. So if anything I'm saying is not clear, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to clarify. But just let me know if y'all are with me. So just go ahead, type in the chat if you're with me so far on how this works. All right, cool. All right, so once they hit their 2,100 points, and they could redo their assignments. So I know that earlier somebody was talking about multiple lives, multiple tries. So they could redo the, I would never call them assignments to their face. They could redo the mission as many times as they wanted to get it complete, to get complete points. So then the next rule was that if it allowed for multiplayer, then everybody had to have reached the stage of the mission or it would not count for that player. Okay. I'll skip 5 because that's kind of like districtese. And 6 kind of goes back to what I was just saying. If they were to jump ahead, then the missions would not be counted towards their point total. So I put a lot of the harder, more fun stuff, well, harder and more fun stuff at the end. There was a Minecraft challenge at the end. That one never got built out, but that was going to be the end game. So, putting the more interesting things at the end kind of got them wanting to go through the different stages, and wanting to continue. Okay. So that was a little bit about the rules. I also had a leaderboard. So you may have seen, if you go to the arcade, how you can put your initials in the machine, right? Like I saw someone saying that Pac-Man was their favorite game. I used to love doing that. I never got on a leaderboard for Pac-Man, but I'd always see everybody's initials, and I was so jealous. So I told my students, okay, we're going to have these top 10 high scores of all time. You're not just competing against your classmates right now. You're competing against every class that comes after you and before you. And I said, this is never coming down. So just like how people would unplug the machine, the Pac-Man machine at the end of the night, and it would go blank, and the next day you'd have to come back in and beat it again if you wanted your initials in there. I told my students that as long as this website is up, then your initials will be on there. That'll be your legacy. And it's funny because now looking at these initials, I know exactly who these kids are, and now they're probably in college. They're definitely college age. So it's up there. So that was kind of their legacy. Yes, getting the initials on the leaderboard, Cindy, I agree. So yeah, so this was the leaderboard where they got to put their high scores in. Okay. Now the challenges, or the missions, I should say, we had different stages. So as I said before, they would need 2,100 points to level up. So they did everything at the they had most of the content I packed into the tutorial stage, and then after that they got to kind of pick and choose what missions they wanted to do, and each of these were worth 700 points. So they just needed a perfect score on 3 of them, and they would be able to level up. So each of these kind of followed a certain theme, I guess. So there were things on there for students who liked video. There were things on there for students who liked audio, photography, all different kinds of things, coding. There were I just kind of scaffolded them and made them kind of ordered them in level of difficulty. And the really cool thing is that I didn't have to recreate the wheel. A lot of these were previous assignments that we had in class, or things that I borrowed from other teachers who were gamifying their class. So that kind of underscores why PLN is so important, the personalized professional learning network. So I'm sure I'll be doing a repeat on the PLN session, but yeah, that saved me a whole lot of time, a whole lot of work, and I just was able to link out to other teachers' websites. So that was super fun and super easy. So I'll show you the most popular one was the alphabet challenge. They liked this one because it got them out of the class. It got them out of the classroom, and they were able to kind of walk around with an iPad or with a camera and record different things. So just to kind of show you the anatomy of what this would look like if they clicked on alphabet challenge, if they clicked on alphabet challenge right here for stage 1, then what it looked like, they would have their level, their reward, the number of players. So I wanted it to be, like a group, but not too big a group. And then on each of these, I tried to have like a rubric that would go with it, so that if anyone ever had a question about my least favorite R word, rigor, then I could say, oh, look, it aligns with our standards in this way. So, because a lot of times when people hear the term gamify or gamification and are not aware of what it is, then they might think that there's that it's not necessarily curriculum aligned, but this absolutely was. And hello, Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. All right, so that was at the top of the page, and then scrolling down, I had some explicit directions for the students. So for this one, they would walk around with the iPad and record like 6 to 8 seconds or 5 to 8 seconds of something that started with an A, something that started with a B, something that started with a C, and so on, all the way to Z. Then they would take their footage and they would edit it on the computer using iMovie or Final Cut. And funny thing is, I did not teach them how to use iMovie or Final Cut. I was just like, look it up. If you still don't know, then ask me. But by that time, they figured it out. So that was really cool because they were able to teach themselves. I see the question about, yes, I see what Mary said, that sometimes people don't think students should have fun, which is really sad. I mean, like learning can and should be fun, in my opinion. So the slide deck, I will definitely try to post that for you right afterwards. So absolutely, and I agree with what you're saying also. So they would go record these videos, and then they would take out any mistakes. So also on the page, I had an example for them. I won't play the whole thing. I'll play like the first, maybe I'll show you to E. So just an example of what it looks like.
A is for apple. B is for blue bottle. Double B's, y'all. C is for camera.
D is for Downing. No.
Oops. Okay, so okay. So anyway, when I showed my students that video, then they were just like, those look like some really old middle schoolers. And I was just like, no, y'all, those are teachers. So that was right. Lori, that is that's the same thing that they asked. They were just like, are those like middle schoolers? I was just like, no, this was at the Teacher Institute. So yeah, but I would show them that as an example just to kind of inspire them for how it could look. But of course, having them use their own creativity to come up with whatever they were going to do. So that was example 1. Lori is saying about the about the video editing assignment. Yes, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Yes, indeed. And yes, Mary. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. So that was kind of what it looks like. Okay, so that was example one. If you have any questions or anything about the first example, just let me know. Just go ahead, drop them in chat. But that's kind of what it looked like for us, and it worked out really, really well. I had the students kind of rotate through every quarter, so I had new ones every quarter, but it worked really, really well. So, and one question that I tend to get a lot is that wasn't it cumbersome, for each student to have like their own path and how to manage that grading? And what we would do is that they would create an appointment. They would like let me know at the beginning of class when they felt that they were ready to level up. And then the two of us sit down, go through their work, and see see how many points they got, and if they were able to successfully level up, then I would yell out "level up" at the top of my lungs, and everybody would know that the student got to the next level. So that's kind of how yes, thank you, Mary. Yes, so that's how that one worked, and that was on a website. Now this is example 2 for middle school reading language arts. So in reading language arts, I didn't have as much flexibility over the curriculum. So my very first year that I gamified, I didn't really use this method with them until I met Chris, and he showed me his method. And it was really cool because he used a spreadsheet. And he shared a spreadsheet with me. And I was able to just kind of keep track of the students' points individually, and just kind of seeing how that goes. So they had different points that were assigned for different things, mostly for successfully completing their work. But I'll show you what that looked like in just a moment. Okay. Yes, ELA middle school, absolutely. So, okay, so on the spreadsheet there were different tabs. There was the leaderboard, as you see there. Each student, they were able to pick a pseudonym if they wanted one. Then this also allowed for teams. So we were able to split them into different, they were able to choose their own teams. So with the gamification, we had like a whole mock draft. So the first day of the quarter, they would give like speeches. I pre-selected the captains, but they gave speeches, and they kind of drafted each other onto teams, and their teams would battle each other out. So we had an individual sheet, a team versus team sheet, and a class versus class sheet. So that year I taught, I want to say it was 2 periods of English language arts and 1 of technology I think that was on an A day. I can't remember, but that's kind of what it looked like. So the classes would go back and forth and kind of battle it out. So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. Another thing that we did was an item shop. So with the item shop, as they collected their points, they were able to quote unquote buy different things with their points that they accumulated. So you see here a few of the things that they were able to buy with their points. And these did not cost money. There were some things that they were able to I'm sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. But yeah, there were some things that they did want in the item shop. And so at that point, I got them, right? But most of the things were free. Like I'll show you, and looking back, not all of these were great examples of what could be in an item shop, but where I could, take them to the gym, or they could play with the Sphero, or have iPad privileges and things like that. So what kind of tasks? So I see your question, Lori. Great question. So some things that they would get different points for. So I would scaffold the assignments, and kind of had like a choose your own assignment. So there were like different levels. Level 1, just a classwork grade. Level 2, they did they would get up to more points, up to 10 more points. And there was like a level 3 that was, that took a whole lot of effort. and they were able to collaborate on this together. They were able to do group work. I know Michael Matera has a great system for fairly giving out points, with group work. So definitely look up some of his stuff. So yeah, so I mean, my journey, I learned a lot through the journey. There were some things that I would have done differently if I knew then what I know now, but it was a lot of fun to try to figure them out. Oh, thank you all so much. I'm seeing the comments right now. So yeah, we had a really good time working through this gamified system. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. So feel free to drop them. But I would say that my biggest takeaway was the item shop and just realizing that, that your privileges that you give to students, they don't have to cost you anything. They can all be free if you want them to. I'll leave you, I'll conclude that section with an acronym that Chris Aviles taught me. And I think that Michael Matera also uses this. This is called SAPS, and it stands for status, access, power, and stuff. So status is what most people crave, right? Status elevates you among your peers. Access is being able to, get a hold of something else that other people don't have access to. Power is being able to control what happens to someone else. And stuff is like the pizza party and things of that nature. So I'll give you a quick example of what each one may have looked like in the item shop. So a status reward would be that they could do the flipped video for the week, or they could be co-teacher for a day. So that would be an example of a status reward that's free. Access would be that they would be able to they would have like 15 minutes with the Sphero, or they would be able to, do something special where other people would not be able to do that same thing. Power, this one was a really popular one, but with the power one, an example of a reward for power would be that they could change the name of another team, within reason, of course. So, and the stuff would be like the pizza party or the treasure box. So there's lots of different things. Okay. And Shauna, your question, did you basically use regular class activities and assignments for them to gain XP? Yeah, for the most part. And every now and then I would sprinkle in some hidden levels that they would access, that they didn't know that they were even working for those points. Like, for example, if they worked together to collaboratively get a perfect score on an assignment, then that would be, a hidden badge that they could unlock, and that would give them some extra points that they could spend. Okay. So yeah, so it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun coming up with this together. Okay. Yes, absolutely. So having digital centers with choice that you call levels. Was this a daily activity lesson or certain days? That is a great question, Kay. And it was daily. So what we would do at the very beginning of class is just kind of look at the leaderboard, see where everybody stood, see where the different groups stood, and look at, their class versus class battle. And then, they would get their marching orders for the day. Like, this is what we're going to be doing today. At the time, I was also flipping my classroom. So they would have gotten the video beforehand that they would have looked at, and they would kind of have a preview of what we were doing in class that day. So they would work together, either depending on what the assignment was, but I would be giving out points, as they were working. And that's kind of what it would look like. And then at the end of the day, just kind of putting up the devices. In my class, we were 1-to-1. We had like a cart that stayed in my room. So that was very, very fortunate. Oh, thank you all so much. Yes, and the question, if I differentiated, or was this embedded in the lessons? And that is also a great question. So I would say that for that particular piece, then I did not, because most of the things that we did were collaborative group work, and quite honestly, we had pretty small class sizes. At the time, it was kind of a lottery school. So in that, in my particular classroom, I did not, but you absolutely can. That's the beauty of it, because with that second example I showed you, if you take like an Excel spreadsheet and set it up that way, and you have the individual points as well as the group points and the class points. So and I would reiterate that allowing them to pick pseudonyms is 100% crucial to if you're going to do this, because like my students didn't all pick a pseudonym. The following year I had them all pick a pseudonym. But that year I gave them the option, but I didn't want any of my students to feel badly, if they were towards the bottom of the leaderboard. But yeah, I love that about building the ELD and SPED differentiation into the choice part. Yes, absolutely, Lori. Flipping your classes coming year for both distance and brick and mortar instruction. Absolutely. Okay, great. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to keep them coming. Okay, so there's other models as well. I just kind of touched upon them, but there's some where, I'll start at the bottom. Well, back it up. Okay, so there's some platforms that'll do gamification for you already that you may be using. Truth be told, before I went to the gamification session in my district, there was a platform that I was using before, and I didn't realize I was gamifying. I was giving the students points. If they got to a certain point level, then okay, you get X reward, and that is also gamification. The star charts are gamification. Like I said, my very first year in the classroom with that star chart, because I wanted to be like my first grade teacher, then I was gamifying then, and I didn't even realize it. Talking about the one on the top, then there are also badges. You can consider giving badges to your students, having them earn them and unlock them for doing different things. So we also messed around a little bit with that, and the students did really enjoy that as well. So there's lots of different things. So absolutely. So yes, absolutely, Lori. And let me see, I'm just opening up Cassie's comment. Yes, you asked the question today when you needed help could be a great example for students to earn points. I love that. And the beauty of it is that you can make it whatever you want, whatever your students need, then absolutely. So Celia, about the different platforms, I think that one is really good. I think a lot of it depends on the age group of your learners, as well as what you're trying to accomplish with it. So in and of itself, I like it. I would say just maybe, think about like the age of your learners, as well as what you want to get out of it. And, because there's not one system I would necessarily recommend to everyone. And in addition, I would say that different systems that I've tried, a lot of times they're customizable. Like the pre-existing platforms, they're customizable. So you can even gut all the stuff that comes with it. Like ones that I've seen that have been promoted mainly for use with like younger students, like the early elementary, they work just as well for adults if you take out like the pre-existing categories and point values and replace them with something else. Like we've done certification challenges where they would get points for being able to create a word processing document, and have different features correctly. They would get different points for the challenge there. So lots of things, there. So middle school media center, absolutely. Okay, great. So yeah, that's a good age right there. So the delivery could be pushed out in a hyperdoc. Quite possibly, yeah. The beauty is that you can tweak this to meet the needs of your students, and the sky is the limit in terms of the creativity that you want to put into it. So absolutely, there's many different ways to set it up, many different ways to roll it out. Any platform to manage this that would work well with high school kids, I would say The one that Celia recommended, that I tend to see that with the higher grades. So absolutely. And HyperDoc rather than a website, Lori says, yeah, yeah, that sounds really good. These are great ideas. I love the collaboration going on in the chat. So thank you all so much. Okay, cool. So we have about 10 minutes remaining. So I'm just going to leave you with the 5 steps to I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I see Cassie's comment, high school prize, teach the teacher a TikTok. I love that. Yes, indeed. Okay, so the 5 steps to gamify, just kind of a recap, bringing it all together, what we talked about today. The first thing, choose a platform. So you can create your own on a website. You can do a hyperdoc, like many of you are saying in the chat. You can, the sky's the limit. So there's pre-existing platforms. You can create your own, whatever you want to do, but just find what works for you. You might need to try different things out, just kind of, experiment with them and see what works for you. And once you find one that you like, then just roll with that. So that's step 1. Step 2, creating your rules. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have your rules in place. Let your students know how they can win your game. Of course, it's great to have hidden levels, hidden bonuses, all that stuff. But going back to the Donkey Kong example, I knew that I had to get all the way to the end of the level without the bad guy jumping on me, and that's how I would win. And I would have to beat every level. So I know the rules. They're very straightforward, and that way I'm not going to get confused, right? So create the rules, and just and make sure that your students know. Let me see. Just love hidden levels. Yes, I love that, Cassie. That is awesome. Great. Step 3, creating the challenges. Now, this is optional because it depends on what kind of game you're going to use, what kind of gamification model you're going to use. Some of them, if you're going to be badge based, then of course you need to have challenges for your students to earn the badges, or points, things of that nature. Um, so so just having kind of the ways that students will earn, whatever the objective is. So creating the challenges. If I were going to relate it back to my credit card example from earlier today when we were talking about gamification outside of the classroom, then the challenge would be, okay, spend X amount of dollars, at this store, right? You probably see that on your credit card site when you're paying your bill. Maybe, I don't know if you have the same credit card company as me, right? So those are challenges. So letting your students know how they can, be successful within the game. So very similar to rules. Rules would be kind of like the structure of the entire game, the entire class game, but challenges are those individual different pieces. And remember, choice can be very powerful here. Okay. I love this. Basements, trapdoors, secret rooms. Yes, secret door in the bookcase. Oh my goodness. You all are giving me so much life in this chat. I have to tell you, some people's gamification is just insane. Like they will have a whole narrative that goes throughout the entire school year, the entire the entire semester. It is just crazy. So speaking of that, leverage your resources. So in terms of resources, and I'm speaking specifically of the PLN, of the Personal Learning Network, there are some people in there that are very willing to share what they know for free, pretty much. There's all kinds of Twitter chats. A few people that I'll recommend are Michael Matera on Twitter, at Mr. Matera. Also, Chris Aviles on Twitter at TechUpTeacher. So yeah, and it spelled it right on the captions. So TechUpTeacher is Chris Aviles. In addition, Becky Gibbonnet, she does a lot with gamification with PD. So she's a good person to look up. Let me see if I can grab her Twitter handle for you all. It should be right here on my phone. I think it's Becky Lead, but I will double check that. Okay, but she is someone great to follow on Twitter. Let me see. Okay, actually, it's at Given A Rebecca, and I'm gonna put that in the chat. Okay, great. I will put everybody I mentioned. So, at Mr. Matera, at Teched Up Teacher, at Given A Rebecca, and all of these people that y'all are dropping, thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm probably going to go back and see who they are so I can follow them as well. Yeah, because I'm always trying to learn more. Always, always, always. There was somebody else who came to mind. Let me see. At the art guy. Let me see. My mind is starting to. I'm starting to forget, but if I think of anyone else before the session's over, then I'll drop them in there. But definitely look them up, see what they have to share. They have so much to share when it comes to gamification. Oh, also at Senor G. This is Noah Geisel, and he does badge summits. So if you're really into badging, then you might want to give him a follow and connect with him. He is like the badge guru. 100%. Okay. So that is step 4. And step 5, explain your system. So don't just explain it to your kids. You also got to explain it to their parents. To their parents. I'll tell you that one thing that I wish I had done the very first year that I rolled this out is that I wish I had made a very short video and just kind of sent that to parents or explained it at back to school night, because I did get a lot of emails like, okay, I'm seeing all these missing assignments, and did my student not do them? And I was just like, oh, no. I just listed out all the assignments and they got to choose which ones they wanted to do. So if I had kind of gotten ahead of that and explained it to the parents, then I would have avoided a lot of emails. Not that I minded responding to them, but yeah, explaining your system to the parents, to the admin, to everyone who needs to know, to all stakeholders, to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So that's kind of it right there. So I just wanted to thank you all so much for your time and attention. So once again, this is my information at Sarah the Teacher. I'm loving all of the responses I'm seeing in chat, and I really hope I can save these because this is really cool. So I wanted to thank you all so much for being here today, for learning, and I've learned so much with you as well. So again, thank you all so much, and I hope to see you again. Thank you all. Yes, and please do drop your Twitter handles. I'll drop mine one more time. Sarah the Teacher, which is me. So thank you all so much, and I hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. And I'm